I'm going to talk about my ninth grade ELA class. It is a class on average where about a third of the students are ELA level or ELL level 1-2 students, and I have another eighth to a fourth that are ELL level 3-4 students. I, on average, have Spanish spoken in every class. Other classes include French, Tagalog, Mandarin Chinese. I have two African dialects, but what's really great is with the diversity of the school that I teach at, I'm often able to pair them with a student who is a native language speaker as well with them, but is more proficient in English, or sometimes even students who are learning that language but are native English students. My students sit in pairs. They also work in small groups of 4 to 6, and we also have full group. Because it's an English class, we have reading, writing, and speaking and listening all involved in all of our days, which sometimes can prove difficult for my ELL students. And there have been things that we've put into place to support them. The first example I'm going to share comes from my Latino-speaking students, and it deals with morphology and the phonological sounds of the words. In Spanish, any word that has a s at the beginning, it always has an e placed in front of it. And so the morphology of the word and also the phonology of the word is an es or an s sound. It's not a simple s sound. As a result, when students see even just words that have a s at the beginning in English and they are not having that e or the e placed in front of it, they still speak it as if that e is there. And so anytime they're reading out loud or they're speaking with me and the word has an s in the beginning, they have that s in the sound, so the phonology of the sound, even if the morphology of the sound doesn't indicate it in the spelling and so forth. Yesterday, a student just asked me, "Where is Miss Simon's classroom?" He's new to the school and he was looking to find Miss Simon's. In the one-on-one instance like that, we take the time to remind that there's no E in front of the S. We emphasize the S together. We then emphasize the S as we say Simon's, and then we say it with a whole sentence. And we are able to take that time. In a full group setting, sometimes because the majority of my students still will do it, we will stop and take the time to practice that word and just have the clear S sound and help them hear it and then also practice just that clear S. Other times I'll just repeat the word and read it and emphasize the clear S. The other one that I'd like to share comes from writing. And this deals primarily with syntax. My students oftentimes will use Google Translate, especially as they're trying to turn in papers. The first essay I received the first day of class, one of the students wrote this: "This past summer was me and visited my family in Mexico. I had a lot of fun. We all stayed in a house big because I have a family big." That first sentence indicates to me that they're likely using a translator of some sort, just because the words don't make sense and something's clearly being lost in the translation. But the syntax becomes very clear because in that last sentence they are ordering noun, adjective, which is common in many other languages, in particular in this case Spanish. They have house big, family big. Because of this, some of the first grammar lessons that we practice is the order, the syntactical order that we put our words in for traditional English. I haven't gone to the extent of using sentence graphing, but we just review what are adjectives, what are nouns, and then I emphasize and we practice putting those adjectives before the nouns. The other challenge that I've seen with my ELL students is in note-taking. They lack the vocabulary. They also lack the syntax. Even as they're taking their notes, the syntax ends up being so non sequitur that they're not able to understand what they've written down sometimes. And then just the general concept, the idea that I'm teaching gets lost because, again, they don't have that vocabulary, or they're not even able to keep up with the speed as I speak and writing it down. Because of this, I've chosen to introduce guided notes as well with our Cornell note styles that we take. The guided notes gives me a few great opportunities. One, I'm able to highlight just vocabulary, and that vocabulary I write up on the board so they can fill in the blanks in the guided notes with it. So I'm emphasizing the appropriate vocabulary there. I'm able to include definitions in their notes for them. I'm also able to model effective syntax because essentially guided notes are sentence frames that my students are using. And so my students are able to see the correct order of words for traditional standard American English. And then what it allows my students to get the general concepts, and then with the Cornell notes, we again practice summarizing those concepts, and I give them sentence frames for that so they can practice correct syntax with the vocabulary while summarizing the general concept.